Welcome to the Art of Classiness podcast, a show where we redefine what it means to be a classy lady. And sometimes it's messy. I'm Robin.
And I'm Deborah, two friends turned classy ladies who are here to discuss life's ups and downs, navigating the complexities of adulthood, and how the gift of friendship is essential to belonging.
Have you noticed how dating now feels like a group project? Your besties are analyzing every text, and suddenly, strangers on TikTok are telling you to run?
Yes, it's 2026, and Friendfluence has gone from a quick group chat vibe check to a viral comment section of strangers judging you on the internet.
Exactly. Spotting red flags we couldn't name before, borrowing language for the ick, and turning empowerment into something contagious. We're unpacking the magic and the mess today.
So follow along, give us your feedback, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
What's up, classy ladies and gentlemen? Deborah, how are you?
I am great. This week, my son started ski club, which is exciting for him. He's like so excited about that, which is crazy that we even have a ski club in Ohio. But
does he already know how to ski or is he learning from scratch?
He actually has gone a few times before and all with his dad.
Okay.
He's been fortunate enough to go to Europe. And so his first time skiing was in Austria, which is like...
That's amazing.
So amazing for him and so privileged. Like I told him the night before, you need to understand in your bones that you are so incredibly privileged to be able to do this on every single molecular level.
Yeah.
And you cannot take this for granted. So take it in. And also, you still have to have good grades. You cannot miss homework, like all those things. You still have to be on your best behavior because I will take this away from you. But yeah, so he has been fortunate enough to know how to do it. And he is just having so much fun. Like, the whole next day, he was like, oh my God, like, I just can't wait to go back. And like, he did all these hills and like,
aww.
So yeah, it's been so much fun for him. And I'm really excited to see. The thing that sucks though is he goes right after school. They take this charter bus like an hour away. So I never get to like see him do it.
Aww.
You know, like I never get to go with him to like see him actually do it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping maybe at some point I don't even know how, but I would love to see him do it because it's something that brings him so much joy. And at this point in his like young adolescence, it's hard to see his face light up like this as many times during the week. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. But yeah, just happy to have the kids back in a routine and excited to see Max maybe really get into skiing. So we'll see.
Maybe he'll become an Olympian.
I know. It's every time they do something new, I'm like, maybe you'll be the best in the world at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what's going on with you?
So the last time we recorded, I was telling you about the curling league that we joined with friends.
That's right.
We had our first game last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so fun. It was so fun.
Yeah.
So there were 8 teams present, so like 4 matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, we weren't playing our friends, but our friends were there because we're in the same like group. And so it was just really fun, us all being in there, running up and down the ice and just shouting directions and stuff. It was really fun. It was so fun.
Yeah.
I'm really happy we were able to join this winter for that. And we won.
Okay. How about that?
Remember how I told you I think I'd make a good hammer?
Yeah. Yeah.
I made a good hammer, dude.
Yes. Hell yeah.
And yeah, I was so proud of myself.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a highlight of my week.
Love that.
Yeah.
To try something new and then you're good at it. Now, let me ask you, like, did you meet new people? Or you guys like, how's that side going?
So we were chatting with the other team, having fun. And you're supposed to like shake hands and say good curl.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we all introduced ourselves and stuff like that. So there is opportunity for that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
But we have to move so fast because it's timed.
Okay.
So however many games you can get in a certain amount of time, that's just what you get.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult to really like get into conversation with anyone because you're constantly like moving around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in general, we are being exposed to other locals and stuff. And so, like, it's a great starting point for maybe doing a different kind of league or just running into them at another event kind of stuff. I could see that happening.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Feeling it out there,
Yeah.
Exposure is the first step.
And then afterwards, we went to, there's this bar that on Sundays they have dollar wings.
Dollar wings. I remember when they were 25 cents. That's insane.
Oh my gosh. I know. Yeah. The fact that they're $1 and that's a steal these days is wild.
Oh my God. I feel so old.
But yeah, we like told everybody like, hey, we're going to go to this place for dollar wings. And some of our friends came to that, and we decided to make that part of the Sunday routine is like before, after the match. That's kind of our hangout time.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
So yeah, it's just great. I don't know, man. I'm just really loving living out here.
Awesome. Oh, I love to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of old and new friendships, in this day and age, in the year 2026, dating and relationships for women aren't as private anymore, right? They're very public. People share things very personal and vulnerable online on social media. There's opportunity to get more influence than from like your close circle of friends. So today we wanted to break down kind of the magic behind what you can receive by sharing your experiences to a larger audience, but also the downsides about how it can turn into more than what you bargained for, blurring the lines between support and judgment because people are only seeing a certain part of your life, right?
Yeah. It's funny because, I don't want to speak for you, Robin, but I would qualify myself as someone that's chronically online. During my downtimes, it's definitely the way I kind of disassociate. And I really enjoy not only just watching videos, but I'm a big comment reader.
Oh, yeah.
On TikTok, the comments are sometimes half the entertainment.
I am always going to the comments.
It can give you context. Sometimes the comments are the funniest part of a video, in my opinion. But a trend that I notice and kind of what sparked the idea for this episode is there's like a big hype squad that can exist in social media in girlhood these days. And it creates a channel for women to sometimes be able to share stories and receive feedback as it pertains to not just their lives, but sometimes the relationships that they're in. And we have seen that play out in ways that can be really empowering for women to be able to point things out that maybe they couldn't see, to put a name to an occurrence that they didn't really have language for. And we've also seen the dark side of when the internet can really pile on to just a 15-second clip of your own life that the internet has decided they know the entire story of. So we wanted to kind of explore the good, bad, and ugly of what it is like when you decide to share your life online and maybe give people, do's and don'ts of if you are someone that wants to share of how you can kind of take this approach with a grain of salt.
Yeah, just some ways to navigate the internet.
Yeah. So yeah, before social media, I think we just had our personal social networks of actual face-to-face friends, right? We ran our relationship decisions by just the people in our lives, like our 5 or 6 closest friends. So if I'm trying to decide like, hey, I got into a fight with my boyfriend last night and I can't really tell if it's a deal breaker or not.
The number of times I sent like screenshots of conversations because I need someone else to tell me what I'm doing wrong, if anything, usually not. But yeah, continue.
So those conversations take place in small circles. But in today's world of social media, what you now see a lot more of, people are very comfortable airing this laundry out to millions of strangers on the internet. Really, just story time is a huge trend for me, it's mostly TikTok. I don't go on Instagram very much, but the majority of my feed on TikTok is mostly just yappers.
Mm-hmm.
What I would qualify yapping, which is really the only content that I make on my personal TikTok is just sort of talking. And most of it is people just kind of sharing their experiences. And I think this has really opened up people's personal lives, but it's also opened up so many feedback channels from all different types of opinions from the internet. And that has really created this hype squad for a lot of people.
I want to throw Reddit into the ring as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we'd read all of these am I the asshole stories, but they also have true off my chest and things like that. And people they have the option to post that anonymously.
Yeah.
They're not doing videos, they're just writing things out, and they're able to get advice and opinions from people without your face being planted on it.
Yeah.
So if I were that person, I almost would prefer the Reddit route.
True.
It's so terrifying to put yourself out there in that way. And I just think it's really commendable, very brave. I know through this podcast, you know, we are putting ourselves out there to be criticized, but the way we share it feels different than somebody just giving their raw story in front of a camera, you know?
Yes. And even when I share things on my personal social media, I've never, ever shown a single other person on my TikTok pages. And so people who show snippets of their lives or bring in other people, you're opening up really a window into your life. And that can range anywhere from being a vlogger, where you're really putting it all out there, to just someone who maybe occasionally hops on and is like, is this weird that my boyfriend did this? And is maybe asking for advice. And boy, do they receive it.
They receive it and then some.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, the commenters do really help that person find new perspective or give them the courage to make a tough decision. And then it's a domino effect. Like, more people in the comments are telling their own personal stories and how they relate to it. And they're getting advice in these comments. Like, it's this really cool domino effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like that is what has contributed so much to women's empowerment today, because you do have this giant support system. You may not know these people personally, but it does feel like its own, it's more than a community.
Yeah.
What is another word that we could call that?
Well, I think sometimes it can almost be a tribe.
Tribe. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you can get into a really niche group, right? If you are kind of talking about the same subject, and we're talking about women feeling empowered on social media, whether it's in relationships or whether it's like struggling with addiction. I've talked a lot about not drinking, and that has led me down a rabbit hole on the internet that is beyond not drinking, but full-blown addiction recovery. And that has its own subset of empowerment and just people that connect and sharing their stories. And so it can really become a place of really deep connection for people that can give you a lot of hope and courage to really make changes in your own life. And whether it is addiction, relationships, overcoming adversity, grief, right? There's so many places where these strangers on the internet can become this hype squad that can really help you overcome adversity.
Yeah. I think this is a great opportunity to drop a statistic. We pick a lot of interesting and niche topics sometimes. I think it's always fun to find statistics that prove that we're going somewhere with this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the statistics we found from Amnesty UK/Gen Z polling in 2025, 40% of women report finding support from other women through social media. 36% of those feel more empowered to speak out as a result. 36%.
Wow.
I mean, that's high.
Yeah. I think a big result of that is there's a lot of people who are just voyeurs, right? they might be on social media and they never post their own stuff.
That's me.
And that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But you're seeing stories of other people and you're seeing maybe patterns of behavior in others that you're like, oh no, that's me.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
I remember I was getting out of a challenging relationship. Both contributed to it. I'll take ownership of that. And I came across a creator named Gabrielle Stone, and she had this crazy story time of her first marriage where her ex-husband had an affair with a 19-year-old and his whole family knew, was like participating in the cover-up.
Ew.
Yeah. And she got a divorce and then she quickly met somebody who swept her off her feet and was going to fly her to Italy and, show her the world.
Sounds like love bombing to me.
That's exactly what it was. And that is the very first time I heard that phrase, love bombing.
Oh.
And I was like, say what now? Say what? What was that? What you mean love bomb? What is that? And she described what that was. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. Anyway, the guy broke up with her the night before they were supposed to go to Italy, but she went anyway.
That's right.
And it turned out to be like this big empowerment thing. Anyway, she has a book called Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life.
Nice.
And she has a podcast called the FML Podcast. And she's kind of taken that. She wrote a book about it. It was a New York Times bestseller. And she really turned her life around. But the way she talked about love bombing was she put a name to something I had experienced. And it was like, whoa, hold on. If I had had that language when I started that relationship, I don't know that I would have maybe fallen for some of those things, right?
Yeah.
So that became something it really felt, I don't want to say I felt connected to her story in any way, shape, or form, but it kind of took me to maybe following other creators that have gone through similar things. And it is crazy to feel this connection with people that you don't know online, but it really can introduce you to language or patterns of behaviors that if you don't know people in your immediate life that have experienced those things, you may never see those other patterns of behavior, and seeing someone get out of it or overcome it can be a really powerful thing that social media can be beneficial for.
I have another TikTok reference. I don't know the creator's name, but the updates that she's been making are coming across my FYP. So I have been following. I think she's done 2 or 3 updates at this point. So one cool thing about social media is the collective storytelling and how that can kill isolation.
Mm-hmm.
I think this story is going to be a great example because I think this woman is extremely isolated in her scenario. So very long story short, she had a newborn. Husband's parents came for Christmas, and she was treated like garbage.
Yeah.
No one was helping her take care of the baby. She would get criticized for sleeping in, even though she was up all night with the baby. The mother-in-law, total bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband was not taking her side, which is the ultimate no-no in a partnership.
Yes. Especially when you are postpartum.
Yeah.
The role of the husband is to take care of the mother.
Yeah.
That is your job.
Exactly. And so people in the comments, of course, going crazy, talking about their own experiences, giving her advice on what she should do. And in the last update I saw, she was referencing advice that she was given online and steps that she's planning to take. And just watching the way she carries herself, the way that she's able to keep calm while she's telling this story. And I'm just sitting there with my jaw on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
This poor woman just had a baby and she's having to think about divorce and leaving her husband. I can imagine that even though it is so vulnerable to share a story like that, that's so personal
Mm-hmm.
with the world, and then getting that validation from viewers and feeling supported in a way that she probably wouldn't otherwise. Like, it doesn't seem like she has many places to turn. And so it's really fucking cool that she's able to find a community online where people do want to support her and help her get through this. And I think that's just so beautiful.
Yeah. And I remember you sent me
Yeah.
some of those TikToks, and it's like so infuriating to hear her talk about the fact that her in-laws are like literally opening presents with her toddler without her.
Yep.
While she's like breastfeeding her newborn who won't sleep at all at night. And you just want to like give this poor woman a hug. But at the same time, you know that you've got people in the comments that are like telling her it's not her fault, giving her this validation, telling her that this is not normal, that she is not crazy for feeling this way. And obviously, you never want to see a young family go through a divorce. You really hope that the husband will pull his head out of his ass.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it's like you do not deserve to be treated like this. And even though there's a lot of people who would be like, this is private, you need to just like keep this to yourself and just call a friend or just call your mom.
If you commented, you watched it.
Right. Exactly. Like you are watching it, you are engaging it. And this is a choice that, you know, she has made, and it could alter the trajectory of her life. And you know, she's going to have to face the consequences of that, good, bad, or ugly.
And you know what else? I remember the first video she made, she led with, hey guys, so like, I need your help. Like, am I crazy? Is this fucked up?
Yeah, I remember she said, am I the asshole here? So I'm 2 weeks postpartum. And I commented, the second you said you were 2 weeks postpartum, you're already not the asshole.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do 2 weeks postpartum will ever make you the asshole. Okay. End of story.
Exactly. I hope that validation like made her feel so good in a moment of stress and despair.
And just total hormonal imbalance, sleep deprivation, like your body is not yours.
Yes.
Everything about that. So, you know, it's great that the internet can serve as hopefully a beacon of hope for her and encouragement in those moments, because she's obviously feeling in a very isolated place at home.
Yeah. So we've talked so much about the positive side of sharing your life on social media and finding support and community, but there's also a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
With this story I just told, for an example, like, you know, there are people in the comments asking for updates, asking if she's left him, as if she doesn't follow the advice given by the internet, she's in the wrong. And then on a dime, it gets flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And people hate her. This is just an example. I don't think anybody hates her, but
no,
that happens online sometimes when people just share a small portion of their life. And that's all we have to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the rest of your life. So, like, we're taking this at face value.
It just shows you, like, you give a mouse a cookie, right? Like, people just like go and run and take off with it, and they feel so entitled to your life. And the internet sleuths will come for you and make decisions about you. Or, like I said, they'll dox you, like, this you, and like they'll post a picture of like where you work, where you live, all these things. So there is that dark side of the internet that can exist when you put yourself online.
Yeah. This is the reason why I struggle to do this online, is because I'm terrified of this side of things. Like, I do enough of that on my own. I don't need to find that elsewhere, you know? Like,
yeah.
Advice can very quickly become absolute to these complete strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to post a whole new video explaining, like, hey, like, here's some more stuff that I think you should know before you, like, go on judging this situation.
Yes. This is also a trope that the internet has really rolled their eyes at. When a creator comes online to complain about their relationship, and then the commenters are like, yeah, dump him. He's obviously not that into you. He's obviously cheating. This is emotional abuse, whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person comes back the next day and they're like, you guys don't know our relationship. you just saw a 15-second clip of our life. Okay, that is not at all. You just saw the worst moment of how he is never usually like that. And then the internet turns on that person again. Like, if you don't want our opinion, then don't ask for it.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, you're the one that posted this. You made this decision.
Yes, you're the one.
You put yourself out there to be criticized.
Yes. You put a video out there of your husband having an absolute tantrum about doing the laundry.
Yeah.
Don't come back the next day and say, it was just a joke. We thought it was funny. Oh, really? Because it looked like he was really having a tantrum about doing the laundry. It kind of sounds like he's a giant man-child. And now you're stuck in that marriage, not me, honey. So go have fun.
Yeah, I think in situations like that, like, you gotta add context to that same video. You can't try to, what's it called in PR? Where you're trying to, like,
damage control?
Yeah. It's not going to go well for you if you post another video later to try and do some damage control, because, like, it doesn't matter what you say at that point, because then they're going to think, like, oh, you're only saying that because of what people were saying in your last video, et cetera, et cetera. And it just, like, perpetuates itself.
And it's hard because sometimes I do feel that women are not ready to hear something that they're not ready to hear, right?
That is so true.
There's times where women post something and it's like they can't see something that is like so clear to everyone else. Like, I personally, when I see videos of grooms smash their bride's face into the wedding cake, after the bride is very clearly like, don't you dare, absolutely not, do not do it. And they just like maliciously just spread the frosting on their face, on their hair, on their dress. That just makes my heart sink for these poor women. That's like, this is the first day of the rest of your life with a man who literally will never respect any boundary that you give them. And those women are the first ones to come back on. They're like, it was our wedding day. We were just having fun. Okay, you guys don't even know. And it's like, lady, you're the one that got married to him, not me. And I will tell you, as someone who had every boundary disrespected in a relationship, it will not get better.
Do you remember the story of the woman who she told her husband, do not do this. I will divorce you immediately. He did it. And then she divorced him. And everyone's like, they try to minimize it.
Yeah.
Everyone tried to minimize it, including the husband. And it's just like, no, I set a boundary.
Right.
You broke my trust. The second after our vows. Like, get fucked.
Yeah. If you can't respect my boundary on the first day of the most important day of our life so far, then what makes me think you're going to respect the bigger ones later on? And a lot of people think that that's an overreaction. But to me, it's like how you do one thing sometimes is how you do everything. And so when you put that out there and strangers on the internet see that pattern and comment on it, some people are not ready to receive it at all. And I understand that because I am someone, I'm not going to share the details, but I have shared stories with friends before of my boundaries being disrespected. And I've seen the horror look on my friends' faces of like, oh no, okay. And I'm like, no. He was just joking. It like wasn't that bad. And later looking back and it's like, no, it was that bad. And like, I should have listened to that. And had I put that story on the internet would have told me like, girl, you in danger. Like, get out of that relationship. And sometimes you're just like not ready to hear what's actually going on in your own home.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's a balance here, right? You can't pick and choose like who's going to give their opinion to your videos, right? But you do have control over what you choose to take to heart and not. Like, you're allowed to take wisdom from some of these comments and leave the unsolicited verdicts or negative opinions or things you're not ready to hear, like you just said, you can put that all to the side. Just find the things that work for you in that moment.
Right. Exactly.
And ignore the rest of the noise because you're getting the help that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect it to only be that every time. It's a bunch of strangers and you don't know who these people are and you don't know their life experiences. Like everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt, which is why I say like just take the wisdom that works for you, that aligns with your story, because no one else has all of the other context and they don't need to.
Right. They don't need to. And if I were to be in the position where I shared something and then got a totally different response than what I thought was going to happen, I would surmise the comments and I would take it to people who knew me in real life. And I would ask, how much of this is true? And how much of this is just fan fiction from the internet?
Mm-hmm.
And be honest with me. Are you guys seeing these same patterns and I'm just not seeing it? Or is this the internet being crazy? Right. And I would ask my friends and family honest feedback. Like, is this something that you guys see as well? Or is everybody just crazy? Like, it could be a chance for your friends to be like, all right, here's the deal. He is kind of a dick, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or they could be like, no, they're absolutely insane, because sometimes the internet 1000% gets it wrong. 1000% absolutely gets it wrong. So sometimes you just got to log off, touch grass, and talk to a real human being, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a really great point. Internet doesn't have to be the only place where you're relying on feedback for whatever it is that you're sharing. I think that's a great idea to then take things to your small circle and be like, this is what the internet's telling me. This is what I'm thinking about it. Can you guys help me out here? Y'all know me best.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do? This is where, when we were talking earlier about empowerment, and it should only expand your choices, not shrink them into crowd-approved options. Like, you're not trying to please the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe some people are, that could be their goal, but I at that point, you're not being authentic. So, strictly talking about people who are being authentic online, sharing their real stories. If you find yourself on the other side, on the negative side of the internet, where you're no longer feeling empowered, you're no longer feeling like you have a community, maybe, like Deborah said, take a break. And the secret might just be keeping your relationship offline.
Mm-hmm.
We actually found a statistic,
of course,
that non-Facebook users report 11% higher marital happiness.
Yeah, I believe it. I've seen other studies that hint that people who constantly post pictures of their relationships are more likely to end in either a breakup or divorce. It's almost like you're seeking more validation externally than you are in the relationship. So you might be more successful if you aren't posting everything and aren't always like, baby, I love you so much. Happy 6-month anniversary. You're my center. You're my world. Than you are just not even posting about it at all.
And that's an example of not being authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, if you're not going to be authentic, keep it off.
Mm-hmm.
I think putting up that facade is a thing of the past.
Right.
That's very Instagram.
Yes.
People are all about authenticity now. They want to hear your stories. They want it to be truthful.
Mm-hmm.
Get into the nitty gritty. I've never seen a more open persona.
Mm-hmm.
I guess a more open internet persona.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to what people were trying to do before.
Maybe the best tactic is to just, keep your private life private and not share the unsavory sides of your relationship if you're not ready for the feedback that can come with it.
Yeah, you definitely need to be ready to hear it all.
Mm-hmm.
You can take it all with a grain of salt, but you really need to take it all with a grain of salt. And that might be difficult if you're really not ready to hear it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're taking it with a grain of salt. At that point, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a grain of salt. It's
Right.
It's a huge bag of salt.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's definitely when maybe hold off.
Yeah.
Or another option is to use the social media as a research avenue.
Mm.
You know, look for stories like yours, type in those keywords, see where you can find similar situations and see what people say in those comments. You know, you might be able to find pick and choose advice from that to where it's like directed towards someone else. And so it's easier to grab it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And there's like a very common comment I see, which is like, I've never had an original experience, right? Where it's like people will do something or they'll say something and it's like you kind of realize like, oh, everybody has kind of experienced the same thing at some point in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you're not the one posting, even if you're not the one sharing things about your life, if you are someone who is trying to, like we said, find a name for something you're experiencing, find a way to get out of a bad relationship that you are in, find community or a connection where you otherwise don't have it. If you're in an isolated situation, you know, social media can be a great way for you to live vicariously, watch somebody go through an experience, watch somebody's journey without having the recourse of suffering from the negative backlash if you don't do it perfectly.
Right.
So I think, you know, even if you're not someone that is chronically posting, even if you're not a content creator or even an influencer in themselves, you know, social media can be a great place for a connection, to find that community and maybe also find ways to get out of a bad situation. So, but nothing replaces real human connection. So even if you're always online, make sure to put the phone down every once in a while and get back to that group chat. Get back to those friends. Get back to those lunch dates. Those are really going to be the people who should be steering you in the right direction at times and are probably going to give you the best advice in the long run.
It's true. Our whole podcast revolves around the importance of female friendship. And while it's so amazing that women are finding empowerment on social media and it's this growing phenomenon that is going to push women forward so much faster than it might have happened before.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't take away from the fact that your real life community is extremely important, and maintaining those relationships is where you are going to find the most authenticity from people who really know you, who know your life, who understand why you're thinking a certain way. Like just remember that. Remember that your small circle is everything. It trumps all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is time for our class act of the week. This is a quick spotlight on real moments of everyday kindness, grace, integrity, anything that reminds us of all the goodness that exists in this world. It could be your best friend, a creator online, a total stranger, anyone who has restored a sliver of faith in humanity. Big gestures or tiny, they all count. And today is Deborah's turn. What you got, Debbie?
Oh, they all count, all right. And we are 10 buttons into the year when we record this episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not as chronically online as I am. And it's so funny that we're recording this episode about social media and community. And I've never seen a bigger comment go viral than the one that I am going to share today. But you know what? It's kind of become my mantra for 2026. So let me paint a little picture for you. All right. And this is, again, why surfing the comments can be so important on social media.
Truly.
And if you're not doing that, you're missing out on half the experience. In late December, going into the new year, there was a video, I think it was just even a picture of a girl, face mask, hair up, on her laptop. And it was like, 2026 rebrand charging, right? Like it was just kind of showing her planning for like the new year, everything she was doing to prepare to be like her best self in 2026. And a girl by the name of Tamara, handle just Tamara, said, I love this. I wanted to be more present and have 365 buttons to kind of visualize every day of the year to represent time passing. And the creator was like, I love that, but like, what do you mean by that? And she was like, just every day I would just have a button to just like hang on to, and it would represent a different day of the year. And other people were like, but like, what are you doing with the buttons?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
what do they represent?
What do they like, sure, it represents a day, but like, are you every day, are you putting a new one in your pocket? Is it in a jar? Are you like sewing it to some, like, people obviously had questions, right? Like, this isn't a really fleshed out idea. Like, you can kind of get the concept, but she's the one who brought it up. So people wanted to know. And then Tamara lays us with, I think, one of the best quotes of the year so far. And she says, hey, so it actually only has to make sense to me for me to do it. And I don't feel like explaining it to anyone else.
It's so good.
Hey, so it actually only has to make sense to me for me to do it. And I don't feel like explaining it to anyone else. This got 75,000 likes. Okay.
Wow.
And this comment reply thread went on for so long. And it's so funny. There's so many videos about this moment, and it cracks me up to no end. But so many people are like, you know what, Tamara? Hell yeah. Hell yeah to that. You don't have to explain it to anyone. And it only does have to make sense to you for you to do it. Okay?
Exactly.
And that is my energy going into 2026. I'm going to hang on to it. I think about that quote literally every day.
Aw.
It only has to make sense to me for me to do it, And I don't feel like explaining it to anyone else.
And this is a perfect example of how social media leads way to these different versions of empowerment, right? Like, you felt inspired by these buttons.
Yeah, I really did.
So much so that you think about it every day. And it's giving you new perspective on how you're going to treat this year. I think that's so cool.
I think it's so cool. And it's so funny to me. And I've seen so many videos about that. And it just cracks me up. It really just tickles me sometimes of how the internet just takes something and runs with it. And I really hope Tamara does something with the button business moving forward, right?
Yeah.
I want her to make a video at the end of 2026 to just show us what she ended up doing with those buttons. But if she doesn't, it's okay, because she doesn't have to explain it to us. It only has to make sense to her for her to do it.
Yeah. And however you're doing it, it only has to make sense to you. Like, you're probably doing it differently than she did.
Right. And that's okay.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So you know what? Do whatever makes sense to you guys. And it only has to make sense to you. And that's my class act of the week.
Very nice. Love it. Okay, it is time for our favorite segment, Class or Crass. This is where we give a fake scenario and then discuss how it could be handled in a classy way, or whether it's completely crass. Okay, you find $20 on the ground in a coffee shop. Classy to turn it into the barista, or crass to pocket it since no one's watching?
I mean, cash is hard to come by these days.
Indeed.
In this economy, but just in general, people carrying around cash in general. Some coffee places don't even accept cash.
Yeah. I only carry cash to use at my nail salon because if you pay in cash, they give you 20% off.
Oh.
Yeah. It's the only reason I have cash.
In Michigan for a while, I don't know if they still do it, you get a discount on gas if you pay with cash.
Oh.
I know. So it might be worth it to pick it up,
If I found $20 on the ground and it's not clear to me whose it might be, I'm gonna pocket that shit. Okay? It's not like you could say, hey, did somebody drop $20? Because there's going to be an asshole who says it was me and it wasn't them. And then they're the ones that gets $20 just for being a dick,
I do know.
And maybe even if you turn it into the barista's like, well, I'm keeping this shit.
I know.
So I don't know that there's a classy way to go about that. If it was in a wallet, that's a different story.
Okay, well.
I would never take cash from someone's wallet if there was an ID in it. Like if if there is a way to figure out whose wallet it is, if there's not an identification of wallet, well, it's the same thing. Like, how are you supposed to get it to the right place?
I'm glad you clarified that, Robin, because one time I did find a wallet with cash in it. And mind you, this was like 2 weeks after I got laid off. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was praying every night for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the mall here with my kids, and there was a wallet on the ground. And I was like, oh no. And I saw it and I looked around to see, did anyone just walk by and get it or look like they had lost a wallet? And I opened it to see if there was an ID so I could yell out the person's name. And the only thing that was in there was a stack of cash. There was no cards, no ID. There was no evidence that any cards had ever been in this wallet. It was a very suspicious wallet. Okay?
Okay.
There was something fishy about this wallet, almost like it was solely being used to transfer cash. Okay?
Like drugs?
Well, I don't know. You said it, not me.
Okay.
So I picked it up and I thought, I'm going to go in and just turn it into the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went in, it was Victoria's Secret. There was a long ass line. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait in this line. I don't want to cut off all these people to be like, I found a wallet with cash in it. So I decided to go to customer service. But there was 2 men outside the store and they were ogling me the whole time. Okay. And I was like, are they ogling me because I'm a woman? Or are they ogling me because they saw me pick up the wallet? But now I don't want to ask them if they lost this wallet because I can't validate that it's theirs, right?
Exactly.
There's no ID in here. And what if now I'm going to get caught up in this drug sting, right? What if I'm going to be part of this mob operation that's clearly happening at this mall? And so I walked to the customer service, which is complete other side of the mall, this indoor mall.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to the customer service. Who do I see? The 2 guys that were outside of the Victoria's Secret. So now I'm like, are these guys following me?
Yeah.
And so now I grab the kids. I'm like, we're going to dart in and out of these stores. I don't like this feeling. I feel like we're in a corrupt situation. And so I freaked out and I was like, we have to take the money now.
Just get out of there.
We have to. And it was $350.
Hell yeah.
But I donated $100 to a friend's charity event that was for suicide prevention for military members that struggled with mental health.
Very classy of you. Very classy.
So I took a crass situation and I made it classy. Okay?
You did. You did.
And I kept drugs out of kids' hands.
Yeah. So is it crass to pocket it since no one's watching? I don't think it's crass. I don't think it's crass.
Right.
And I also don't think it's classy to turn it into the barista. I think it's just perfectly fine to pocket it and go on with your day.
Yeah.
You're not being classy or crass. You're just being human who need money.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is the most neutral scenario we've ever done.
Right now, in this economy, it's classy to have money. Okay. So I declare, keep that money. It's class.
Yeah. Declared.
Okay. We covered a lot today, from the thrill of viral hype squads cheering you on to the moment support starts feeling like a live audience judging every move.
It's wild how much has changed. What used to be a quiet group chat decision is now thousands of strangers handing out "you're not crazy" like candy. And sometimes it's exactly what you need, while other times it's just noise.
We want to hear from you. Has the internet ever given you life-changing dating advice or turned into a chaotic scroll of opinions?
Send us your stories to artofclassiness@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram and TikTok at artofclassiness.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. And remember, classy is a state of mind.
So mind your classiness. Bye.